welcome to our BCAT government election coverage 2020 for the Burlington town election. I'm joined today by Selectman Jim Tigges, who is running unopposed, but we wanted to invite him in anyway to sort of talk about what got him into politics and what he hopes to accomplish with another term, which would be his second. Jim, thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me, Rich.
So I wanted to start off, 3 years ago, you ran for the first time, correct? And
Correct.
won the seat that you currently have. What made you get into it in the first place?
Well, like I stated 3 years ago, I love this town. I grew up in this town. When it came time to get married and have children, I made sure that I stayed in this town, and my children were raised in this town. I went to Burlington High. They went to Burlington High, and Burlington's a great town to raise a family. There's so many things for families and children to do, and it's just the location. It's just a great town to raise a family, and I saw what it did for me, and I wanted to stay in town and have the children, my children, have the same benefits I did.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I love this town, so I've been providing and giving services to the town for over 30 years, and another way of providing service and doing something for the town I love.
Now, I think a lot of people know at least a little bit about you, but just talk about your background, your experience, with the police department and other educational background, things like that.
Okay, as far as education goes, I have a bachelor's degree in law enforcement and a master's degree in homeland security and counterterrorism. Proud graduate of Burlington High School. And I've been with the Burlington Police Department now 32 years. I'm currently a detective there. I will be retiring in April of this year.
A little bit of news right there.
A little bit of news right there. So that, I think, will actually give me more time to attend to more town issues, selectmen issues, because I'll have a lot more free time on my hands.
Right. Well, that'll always helpful.
That's always helpful. I love the job. It's just 32 years. It's long enough. It's been a great ride, and I just want to do more. I'll still be working. I'm just not working in the police department anymore.
Sure, absolutely. And so when this election season kind of came around, what made you decide that you wanted to go for another term?
There's a lot of things that I've been involved with, and the town has been involved with. A lot of issues that have started, and we're in progress in my first 3 years on the board, and I'd like to continue to work on those. The issues with the water, the small cell issues, issues with the buildings in town road buildings, the redevelopment of the mall. All those things have happened over the last couple of years, and I want to continue to make sure that those things come to fruition and offer whatever I can to make sure that we accomplish things that we need to accomplish that are in the best interest of the citizens of Burlington.
Now, looking back, excuse me, over the last 3 years, what are some of the big issues that stand out to you, or maybe accomplishments or progress that was made that you're kind of most proud of?
Definitely the small cell issue. What that basically is the next technology for cell phones, smartphones, wireless technologies, 5G. We in Burlington became the first town in the state to develop an application process, design standards, and we're actually acknowledged nationwide as being a national example of what a city or a town can do to do whatever they can. That you can't stop them,
right?
But you can do certain things that will benefit the residents as much as possible, and we've become a leader on that. And that was just something that, one of the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah, and I remember looking at some of those documents and things that you guys put out with the policy, and it was a lot of work that went into that.
It was a lot of technical work.
Complicated stuff.
Complicated stuff. I learned a lot, and I've traveled to other cities and towns and actually explain to them how we did ours, how the process we used, and a lot of towns have told me they've copycatted what Burlington did.
Sure. I didn't want to coach anything else.
Oh, definitely. We actually got an update on the water situation. We're in a perpetual water ban. Good news is we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, and what I mentioned at the Selectmen's meeting, and what I hope the residents realize is it's not. It's taken a little while, but it's not because of anything Burlington, the town of Burlington, is or isn't doing. A major part of the final connection to the MWRA is permitting, and that's probably about 90% of the process. But that's permitting not only in Burlington, but then we have to go through the process through the town of Lexington and then into the town of Arlington. So that's where the MWRA connection is. So it is a process, but it's not just a process in Burlington. It's numerous hearings, numerous, like I said, permits. It's going to take a while, but when it's done, it'll be done. We'll have redundancy. We won't have any more water bans. Hopefully, I shouldn't say that, but we hopefully won't have any more water. But we're headed in the right direction with that.
Yeah, because it's not only just through the towns, the state agencies that have to give approval, and the MWRA itself, and so I mean, yeah, DPW Director John Sanchez sort of laid it out at the meeting last night, and it seems like a lot to get through.
It is, and the construction part. Once we get through all the permitting, the construction part should move rather quickly. But I do want to applaud John and John Sanchez and Tom Hayes for doing is they are doing as much work as possible that they can do now. Certain things can't be done until they reach a certain stage. This permit is issued, that hearing is held, this permit is issued. So what they're doing is they're simultaneously trying to do as much work as possible so that the minute permit A is issued, they can right away go into the next step, or right after the next hearing, jump right into the next step. So they're not waiting for everything to happen. They're doing behind the scenes work, so to speak. So I applaud them for trying to be ahead of the game, and we're actually going quite rapidly, according to Mr. Sanchez.
Yeah, relative to other towns, he said. So that's always good. So next term, 3 more years, what are some of the things that, areas that you think, the board will be focusing on or should be focusing on?
Well, obviously, infrastructure, the schools. There's a lot of talk with the schools as far as the elementary schools, the upgrades to the high school. We know that the state, the SBAB, hasn't accepted our plan for the high school, so we have to look at alternatives. And again, that's a school committee issue, but it does affect the whole town.
Right.
So that's why we do have to, work with the school committee on that. So we have to look at what's going to happen with at the elementary level, at the high school level, and also we have to look at the financial situation of the town at the time, because the schools are one of our concerns. We know the schools are aging, but we also have an aging police department that was built majority of that building was built in 1890s.
Yeah.
And it's been showing its age. Another thing that was mentioned is fire department headquarters. That building is starting to have issues as well. That's the main station at the common.
Right, yeah. Right,
so we have to look at the big picture. Schools, police station, fire department. We have the DPW not coming online, but under construction. They started demolition this week. So we have phase 1 and phase 2. Again, engineering is doing as much as they can on phase 2, with phase 2 that they can now, so that project can accelerate, so to speak, and try to get done as soon as possible.
Yeah, and just so we're not talking too much insider baseball, phase 1 is tearing down what is known as the Clark and Reed site and building a rec DPW maintenance, and phase 2 is an overhaul of the highway division.
Correct, where the current DPW is based out of right now is phase 2.
Right. So just to let people at home kind of know a little bit more of the details of what we're talking about. Yeah, definitely big issues. I know a couple of the things, that come under the Board of Selectmen purview that, I'd like to pick your brain about your thoughts on. One is, the annual setting of the tax rate you get the budget, you get the levy, and you have your decision always is to make that sort of compromise between the business side and the residential side. What is your sort of thought process going into that?
Well, what happens is town meeting actually sets
Right.
the
They approve the budget.
bottom dollar, so to speak. And then our financial team will tell us, advise us on, this is the number we're at, and these are our options.
Right.
And when we look at the options, we always try to choose, or at least I always try to choose, I'm sure the other selectmen do too, the option that impacts the residents the least. I mean, towns have to have growth in order to succeed. As I've learned, if you don't have growth, basically the town is kind of stagnant in a way. But with that growth, we have to try to balance or judge how can we least impact the residents while also not discouraging businesses by increasing their taxes. And again, the selectmen can set the rate,
Right.
and the rate and taxes are based on two things: the tax rate and the value of someone's property.
Right.
We can adjust the tax rate, which has gone down in the last 3 years,
Right.
but unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but with respect to taxes, they go up because property value goes up.
Right.
But that also means your property value is going up, which isn't always a bad thing.
Right. No, exactly. So it's sort of like just a consequence of having a good economy, and as the property rates increase.
Here's the other option. Your taxes could go down if your property values goes down. I don't think anybody wants that.
Right. Another thing that kind of comes up for discussion quite a bit is liquor licenses. There was, talk about, are too many going to the mall kind of thing. But what do you think in general, when you think of liquor licenses as a tool of, generating growth in town?
Well, we've all been told that they are good for the economy. They generate business, which I agree with to a point. Can we have oversaturation? I think there is, there is a potential for oversaturation. But the only way of knowing that is to see if they get issued and all of a sudden the restaurants are not getting the revenue they thought they were going to get. So it could be oversaturation. And our liquor licenses are based townwide, but they're also based on geographic areas.
Right.
So we have some licenses are dedicated to the mall, some are dedicated to the 3A overlay area. So
some down for Cambridge Street now too.
correct. Yeah. Well, down.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
3A. Sorry.
overlay. So they're out there. Not all of our liquor licenses. In fact, we have quite a few that are available, but a lot of those are location specific.
Yeah.
So I think only time will tell if we have too many at any given moment.
Okay. A couple, last things. One, I just want to get your thoughts. There's been some changes in town the last couple years, or even the last year. Mike Patterson is now the new fire chief. We have the new fire station too. Brought on an economic development director. How do you see the town of Burlington sort of, where it's at now and the potential it has moving forward?
Well, what I see is obviously myself and others my age is starting to get close to retirement age. Overall, there's a shortage of public safety personnel in both police and fire. I'd like to see that. We need to backfill positions. We don't want to run short on public safety. We need those people. And again, the economic development officer, she's only been there a couple of months, but she's doing a great job. Melissa is, and again, first time we've ever had one.
Right.
So I know I have a lot of confidence in her capabilities, but we're actually trying to think down the road by having an economic development person. Instead of having, a business come to town that the residents think we have too many of, or that we're oversaturated with, hopefully that we can get businesses that the residents want. I know there's been, I know what people have told me they'd like to see in town.
Hardware store.
So, hardware store, mom and pop restaurant, yes. And Melissa knows all that. We've sat down and she's heard that over and over again. But that's, at least that's how one of my goals is to have her find out what the residents want and try to get those businesses here. The residents want this, let's try to get what they want as opposed to something they don't want.
Right. Yeah, no, it just seems like there's a lot of activity in Burlington.
There is, and the other thing too is, last year because of a vote of town meeting, we're now platinum as far as platinum rating as far as life sciences go.
Right.
And we just had some rezoning. So again, from what I've been told and what I've read, is that we are now on the next wave of business, life sciences. And we're ahead of the curve on that. We've got the platinum status. And I know life science businesses are starting to look at Burlington. And I congratulate all the predecessors before myself in town that saw this vision. Let's get the amenities here, and then the companies will follow. Well, the amenities are here, and now we're starting to see, particularly with this new change in zoning, the companies are starting to follow. We're getting the Millipore Sigma building. It's an unbelievable place. Have you ever been in there?
A few times, yeah.
It's an unbelievable place. Desktop Metals is a phenomenal business in town, but they've got the amenities around them. They've got the hotels, the restaurants. Of course, traffic is a byproduct of that. But with life sciences, one of the byproducts of life sciences is instead of having 100 people in one office, you might have 2 people inside of a lab, which means less traffic as far as the volume of people,
right.
But also life sciences works on a 24-hour clock. So there are people that work at night because they have to come in and check on whatever their projects are. They come in on the weekends. They're not all 9 to 5 like the traditional office business is.
Yes, so hitting upon one of the all-time issues in town of traffic. So alleviating some of that by changing who's coming into work in town. That seems like a positive development. Yes, it is.
That's one of the things one of the things that happens because of life sciences, the nature of life sciences work. Actually, the Board of Selectmen is looking at experimenting with a Don't Block the Box campaign, which other towns have, where we're trying to prevent people from parking in the middle of intersections, which has a ripple effect on traffic.
Right, okay.
So we've earmarked a few intersections that we want to try this with to see if it works. And if it works, we'll see if it works in other areas as well. So we can't do a lot with the volume, but what we have is the streets and the roads, and we'll try to do what we can to mitigate as much of that as possible.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to end somewhat of, I don't know if it's philosophical is the right word, but when you sort of view your position as a Board of Selectmen member, what do you see as the key responsibility of the Board of Selectmen?
To be a conduit to the residents. So the residents have an issue, and we see this through the emails and through personal contact. We're, in essence, a voice of the residents. When we have our meetings, a lot of our decisions are based on things the residents have asked us to do and to look at, and we try to make decisions and vote on issues that we think will benefit the residents based on what they've told us. Now, of course, we don't all agree, because if we all agreed, we'd only need one selectman.
Right.
And that's what I love about our form of government is, I don't have to agree with the other selectmen, but we're still not going to take that on a personal level. And I may not agree with what some town meeting members say, and town meeting may not agree with what we say. And it's just the way our government works. You don't have to always agree, and if you don't agree, it's okay. That's okay. So communication with the residents. Tell us what's bothering you. Let us know. Like this, we get emails about traffic, about backups in the pipes and flooding roads. And Paul Sagarino has been doing a fantastic job as town administrator, communicating the issues to the departments, and then communicating with us as far as what the status of issue A was and issue B was. And so if a resident complains, he takes the ball, runs with it, talks to the department, and then lets us know what's going on with it. So we're there for the residents, and we're their point of contact, I guess you could say.
All right, very good. So last thing, I know you're running unopposed, as we said, but if you have any sort of message to the voters directly, you have a camera for you, and so feel free to make a quick pitch of why they should come out on April 4th.
Well, I've said this before, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but traditionally we get about 15 to 20% of the people voting, but then 80% of the people complain. So what I'm saying is the only way your voice will be heard is if you vote. Come out and vote. You may not think your vote matters, but then again, the next person may not think their vote matters, and so on and so on. So in totality, they do matter. So if you've got something, an issue, or you want to change things, you come out and vote. And that's one way your voice can be heard, is to vote.
Excellent. And you can vote on
April 4th.
Saturday, April 4th. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Right here at Burlington High School in the gymnasium. We'll have maps and everything up before then, so everybody can participate. All right, I want to thank you for coming in and spending some time, and wish you best of luck in the next 3 years on the board.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, Rich.
Yeah,
Thank you.